So I always have a hard time figuring out how to do this. So I wanted to start today by saying that most of you are probably starting with your district's Plan A. And that's what you think might be happening when we go back to school. But some of you have already seen that your school district has changed and now they're going to Plan B. Well, chances are when school starts, it might be that Plan C, right? And we're hoping we don't get to Plan D or Plan E.
Oh, please no.
Today, I am thrilled because we have time that we can sit down and have a conversation, that we can talk about reimagining what things could be like in the fall and taking advantage of the opportunities that we have. And so just, I don't know, maybe a week ago, I saw that the Thai Center had released a new document. And it was all about this new 5C process, this framework that we can use collaboratively with schools and families. And I knew if Jennifer was available, she'd be the perfect person to come on and talk with us. If you haven't met Jennifer before, she does now work for the Thai Center. She also has worn many hats and continues to wear many hats. She does a lot of educational consulting. You might have seen her on some, I think, TED Talks, or were they TED Talks? I think so, that I saw on YouTube.
Yeah, some ed talks and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's like so amazing. And when I talked to her, I said, years ago, I remember finding her website, and I just was like, I don't know, it just caught my eye because in bold letters on her website, it says, "Welcome, spoken here." And I thought, wow, what a wonderful way of looking at the world. And so we are going to be talking today about a new process. If you haven't met me before, I'm Charmaine Tanner. I'm a parent, retired teacher, and I host this show every week. And also, I'm an advocate for families across the country. So we all stay busy, right? And this fall is going to be the most interesting fall that we've experienced. So welcome, Jennifer, and I'm just so thrilled that we can have this time to talk. So
me too. I've been stalking you for a very long time. I love your work, so it's so much fun to be here today. So
yeah, I mean, I think I don't know how we want to start. If you want to start with kind of the big picture of how this framework, this 5C process came about. And exactly, it just to me is so exciting because it's a new way of looking at what we can do in the fall. So I'm going to be quiet and you talk about it.
Well, and I should say, I shared with Charmaine that even when trying to figure out what to talk about today, because there's just so many pieces of it, and it's just so exciting to think about how many different ways it can be used. And so I, with the slides and stuff that I put together, it's like, oh, what will we talk about? Where will we go? Because there's just so much. But I think one of the things is to really think about, the Thai Center and what that is. Just to start, I'm a partner with them. I'm doing some curriculum development and have been a part of the distance learning series that has come out in COVID and in reaction to that. And but what the Thai Center is, it stands for, and I always have to look because to me, I mean, it makes sense, but I just want to get it perfectly right. But it stands for increasing time, instructional and effectiveness, engagement, and state support for inclusive practices for students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. And so they've got partnerships with universities and the CAST Center to make sure that everything is universally designed But it's a National Technical Assistance Center for inclusive practices and policies, which focuses on those kids who have the most significant cognitive disabilities. And I just feel like I'm like super lucky to be with that crew right now, because it is just so relevant and so timely no matter what they're working on, but especially with this distance learning piece. And so the 5 C's process came out of a conversation with Gail Gear and Terry Vandercook and I, the whole TIES Center, but Gail really was, just noodling around about how do we make this practical? How do we make it, something that's easy and very straightforward and clear for people to be able to, then take it into their teams and really, really use it. And knowing that we want it to have all the best practices represented too. And so Gail actually came up with this infographic, which really drove then the work, and we've been pounding on it for about 3 months now of just really trying to get all the pieces in place, and then at the last minute, a couple of days before it actually launched, we were able to bring in our web designers and the graphic designers, and they helped us at the Institute on Community Integration that's here at the University of Minnesota, and they really helped bring it to that next level. And so the forms that are there are accessible for people with screen readers or, visual impairments. And it's just really exciting to be able to react in that way to the need that exists. And so one of the things with the 5 C's that we just really wanted to emphasize, yes, it is for kids with significant disabilities in mind, but it's really just best practice for any kid. And that was something that, I appreciated when you had first read it and commented on Facebook about it, about, this could work for anyone. And we wholeheartedly agree that this is just, really exciting type of thing to be looking at. So that's kind of the background on that. I don't know. It's probably easier to go through the step-by-step maybe.
Yeah, do you want me to pull up your slides?
Sure, let's do that. That way we can kind of dive right in. So there are faces, just to put some names with them. And let's see, I should have the ability to advance these, right?
Right. Yeah. If you click on your actual PowerPoint.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Cool.
Okay. So this is 2 of the underlying things. And I would say that there are a large number of things that are really, really important about the 5 C process. But I think the first step is foundational. And these 2 underlying principles help with that first step. So this is almost like we have to understand this first. And it's really just, the first principle being that learning priorities that kids have don't change depending on where they are. So, the walls of a school don't define and they don't confine what it is that kids are learning. They're learning all day long, right? And all across their day, and thousands of teachable moments. And we know that, and we've always tried to get IEPs to reflect that. But it's very student specific. And so whatever those priorities are, they are going to be the same, whether they're in school or whether they're at home. And so just acknowledging that, if someone has a need of communicating more often to more people in varied settings, that doesn't change if they're at home, and it's the same as if they're in the school building. And so really helping people understand that. And then what do we do about that, right? The IEP goals may need to be changed or modified, but maybe not. And so it's through this 5 C process that we can really have those conversations with families as equal partners on the team. And we're very deliberate about that as well, as far as this is a process that includes families as equal partner and the individuals themselves. But that we're looking at those goal areas, and we're really figuring out how to, whether they're needing to be modified or not. And then what we think is that the goals won't change necessarily, but how we address those goals, or when we address them, or where we address them, that most likely will change. And so that's one principle. The other principle is that, all students are a part of routines and transitions at school. They're all a part of the general ed curriculum first. They're general ed students first. And so that is one of the underlying pieces as well. And so IEPs don't represent the student's full curriculum. We've got all the things that every student is taking a part in, and this is no different. So what, in addition to what everybody is getting in school, what do kids need as a part of their IEP? So those are really important principles that are underlying the whole process. Let's see.
And I think, to make sure that people understand that what we're talking about, this can be a process that you can use when you go back in the fall, right? When you're, and schedule a meeting. But what is I think the beauty is that this can apply whether your child is going to the brick and mortar school, whether they're staying home for distance learning or doing a hybrid model, that the process that Jen's talking about is a process that easily lends itself to those pivots that we're going to probably be having to make. And so, yeah, probably the IEP goals that you last established. I'm hearing some feedback. Let me see if maybe I'll try muting a little bit there. But it could be used in a variety of places. And maybe, like Jen said, you might have to look at some goals and do some tweaking, but generally, whatever the priorities were when that IEP was written are still the priorities that you want your child to learn. It might look differently. They might need some new assistive technology written in the IEP because that's going to change, right?
Right.
There might be some new accommodations that you would want to write in there. But hopefully this process also will be something that you can use ongoing for IEP meetings. And you can, the district can still fill out the form and have all the required parts, but this is a new framework to look at how do we even develop that IEP first, and keeping the principles of inclusion and universal design for learning. So it's like that has so many applications. So I'm thrilled.
That is that it's like you just took all of the things and put it into that. and that's exactly it, right? And so this infographic will have a link, right, that we can share. And right. What we had hoped was to have like a one pager that people could have sitting next to them as they're going through meetings and really be able to, follow the process. And it's not linear. If something changes in the process or if something comes up, you can, go straight to that step, but then review the rest of the steps and make sure that everyone's still on the same page. But Charmaine, as you're saying, it's that, how do we pivot from at school to home seamlessly? And especially for those kids who have the most significant cognitive disabilities, this is really important for people to know how to do it and be able to just keep making progress and keep focusing on all those things that we know that we want for them. So the 5 parts, let's go there with them.
Okay.
So so everyone can see that. Yeah. The first part is the components piece. And so what we mean by that is that if you look at those 3 components of participating in routines and transitions, engaging in grade level academics or other essential skills, or interacting with others, we would argue that those things are what we want for any person in a school. And we can really draw from those 3 learning components and really, you look at the little person on the top, that's very intentional. Overarching learning components, what's important to that individual, then we can go from there, which that's a little different from how IEPs are typically written, right? And so to your point too, it's kind of exciting for us to think about the opportunity of we've tried to have people write IEPs that are strength-based, person-centered, and this is just an awesome way to say, okay, if you do it that way, now we can look across school and home so much easier. And so by writing this IEP that we've always wanted for kids in the first place, instead of like splinter skills or something like that, when we look at them holistically and start with that vision piece, then we can have a different type of IEP that we know is best practice anyway, but it also helps us to bridge those things between home and school and back again. And so that's really very unique in this process. This is the foundational piece, is that really understanding that vision. And we know that, right now with school starting last week, I heard that some states have already started, or the scrambling that's kind of going on. I know for my own kids that, we don't know what it's going to look like yet. And it's going to be August 1st on Saturday, So we know that it's completely crazy to think about having some big, huge vision exploration meeting about every single kid right now. And so what we did within the process for each component of the 5 C's is we have key questions that really bring the people to, those answers and those conversations in a really meaningful and very direct way. But we do say, if you do have the time, if it's a time for a reevaluation or something for someone, if it's something that you naturally are going to have to do anyway, Michael Giangreco's coach process is just fantastic to try to get to the vision and what next for families. So, but that takes time. And so we have 4 or 5 key questions for each one of the 5 C's that really helps get that conversation there very quickly. But once you know that vision, again, using communication as an example, if we know that someone wants themselves or their family wants to prioritize communication across their day, well, then how are they going to do that when they're participating in routines and transitions? How are they going to do that as they're engaging in grade level content? How are they doing that as clearly interacting with others? That's a no-brainer that would fall in there. But coming up then with the present levels, depending on what it could be self-advocacy that we're talking about, and we recommend that at least 2 of, we say, 6 to 8 goals is a good IEP. Anything more than that is just a beast. And so we recommend, trying to keep it when you're doing an IEP like this in particular, so that you can capitalize on all those thousands of teachable moments and kind of play within the practice, so to speak, But if there's 6 to 8 goals, and at least 2 of them are directly related into how kids are engaging in grade level academics specifically, more if you can, and it depends on the kid, but at least 2 of them that way. And then, really stopping and pausing to do that piece of the components process, and then talking about present levels as they pertain to those overarching learning priorities and goal areas. And then you create the IEP goals. And so that's different than how people are typically running an IEP meeting, right? So that's a really foundational piece for people to just take that slow, and it doesn't even have to take that much time, but it is a shift in thinking to think of an IEP in that way.
So I think it would be really helpful for families to share this process with their school staff. And if you are a teacher watching here, share this with families so we can get that cross communication, that collaboration going. So we start to understand that this is a new way of doing things. It's not like, you have to totally throw away everything you've done, but there are some key parts that we could easily embed into the IEP process that your district uses right now. But with these key questions, that will really get us to the important issues versus, this is the next section on the form. Let's talk about this next. Instead of the form driving the process, we could use these key questions that the TIE Center has developed to drive the process. So I'm like beyond excited. I can't wait to see all of this play out.
Well, us too. and I think that's the piece of it, is that even just within this first step, there's so much that, that could be learned or done. And it's huge. It's just huge. But I do think that it can drive those conversations and really help the IEPs move in this direction. And we know right now, even if there isn't a ton of time to do it, we know there's not a ton of time for people to do it, but we also know that IEPs have to look different than they do if we're going to pivot, because, you've heard stories of districts trying to, have some sort of blanket statement about their IEPs, or some districts are, and it's just so different across the nation. But what we know is that there's going to need to be some change, because IEPs are typically delivered in a school building. And so that somehow is going to have to change. There's going to be amendments, or there will be some time that needs to be spent in conversations with families to make sure that we're agreeing on where we're going. This is a way to say, okay, this is the new IEP that we need to create. And so that's super exciting to me.
Well, and we have a question here pertaining to goals. So let's take that right now. It says, can you be specific about an example of 2 goals that address how a child interacts with the grade level curriculum?
Sure. One goal area could be, the first 2 that always pop into my mind are mathematics and reading. And I should say too, that within the link to the TIE Center 5C process, we have, and I should have said this up front, but this will help too. There are, all of the things breaking each of these components into their parts. And then there's also an example of a young woman named Josie. That's a middle school example, where we have examples of exactly how these questions, the key questions, would be answered, and then how it breaks into our learning matrix, which is another piece of this, that all of this leads into a learning matrix that I'll show you too. But the examples, we also have one for elementary age in there as well. And so, questions around what types of answers are there for these, that is there. So be looking for that. But to answer your question, I think 2 that hop into mind would be, reading, a reading goal that would include, answering inferential questions more often, or using a device more often if someone uses an AAC device more often, within grade level content. It could be engaging in small groups, or, it depends on the student, right? So if a person has a need of being able to participate in groups, whether it's because of challenging behavior or if it's, something else, that's where those 3 learning bubbles are really important, is, we can have conversations about that of, what do they really, what for post-secondary outcomes, right? And that's the draw, is that, focusing with beginning with the end in mind, right? We want to imagine that person off and independent in all the ways that we can get them there. But I would say that within, academics, a math thing, depending on the age of the student too. And, I've had kids who are in 9th grade algebra class, AP algebra classes, and identifying numbers, or doing mathematics and doing different things. And so, having the actual goals around the grade level academics that way, and then just expanding on it for the individual. I don't know if that answers. But
yeah, I think that was very helpful. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, and Anne Marie had said, as far as process, she said, and parents can lead the meeting also. And actually, you can model that for hopefully your child is there, because then you want your child to be leading the
Yeah,
meetings later. So, yeah,
yeah,
it's
absolutely.
opportunities for really changing the process up. So maybe we could go on to, let me bring your slides back up onto the second component. Or, I'm sorry, do you have some?
Nope,
Okay.
that's great.
Okay.
Okay. So the next C of the 5C is collaboration, which this is a shot of our happy little bunch with it ties all of us working on the 5Cs process together, and just acknowledging that collaboration right now looks like this, and it's crazy that this is what this looks like. And so never before has there been a need to really be able to communicate effectively and collaboratively and clearly with one another than there has been right now. And so there's always been a need for that. But now within this process, once you know what the overarching learning, based on the vision and the valued life outcomes, and then once you identify those priority learning areas, so for example, if it's participating in routines and transitions, then it could be that someone is getting from one grouping to another with peer support more often and less often with adults, or that's an example of one of those that is an essential skill. But then we get to the collaboration part, and this is super important because once we have those IEP goal areas, then we have to really think about, okay, it's that piece of, we don't want to be changing the goals all the time. We don't want to modify the IEP. We want the goal areas to be across both settings. And so how, where, and when those are going to happen is really, so at school, it might be that, they're using different materials, or there might be summative, informative assessments that are done just in school. Maybe, an example of that would be if a student is learning to communicate more often across different people, and if that was one of the goal areas, then, if they're coming in and there's like an exit ticket type of thing out of a classroom where, if you're in a school building, some teachers have that, where students are asked a question to be able to go to lunch or whatever, and they have to check in and give an answer on something. For a person with a significant cognitive disability that uses AAC, for example, those questions could be predetermined, and they know what's coming. It could be something that is just, trying to figure out what of the content was their most favorite part, or, whatever. So it depends on that person and what those goals might be. At home, obviously, we're not asking our kids exit questions when they come in and out of the kitchen, right? So having those type of conversations about, okay, we know what the learning priorities are. We know the areas that we're going to focus, what's it going to look like at school? What's it going to look like at home? And there will be some that can be carried over, like with math and reading, the IXL online stuff that kids can do. That's stuff that kids can do at home or at school. And so having those conversations proactively of what is engaging in the content in school looking like, and what can we do at home? And part of that we'll talk through in the next piece, which is continuity, but really what's doable for families. And so that's the other piece with the collaboration, is really having the opportunity right now to honor what's going on in a family, and to understand the context that's within their house. And so we've always talked about families being equal partners and understanding their perspective and all that stuff. We have to know it now, because if you have two parents who are working late shifts or something like that, having a morning meeting expectation for a student to be online at 7:30 in the morning, that might not work. So we have to come up with different things. And so I see it as a really great opportunity to be able to figure out, and having these collaborative conversations of understanding what is going on at home and how can you support it really well. So
yeah, and I think that's excellent, because we do know that different families are in different situations, and sometimes it's the older brother or sister that's kind of in charge of helping the younger child, with their homework or schoolwork or what. And so that's why, we want to keep that eye in the IEP, right? Individualized, that
Right.
we're looking at, how is this going to look with distance learning, that we do have that time to have that conversation and look at what the family dynamics are, the best times to do different things. And we all just have to be flexible with that, right?
Right, right. And I think one of the things, we wanted to get the 5C process into the distance learning series bucket. It's, number 17, which means there are 16 others, that are in the hopper too, that are really, really great for people to go and look into, really straightforward things. But we wanted to get it up and running, but we're already thinking about what more. And so, having some more forms that have specifically the key questions that are there, that, so that people don't have to go and dig for those, because right now it's within all of the content that's on there. But those key questions around collaboration, even, we've thought through what are those questions that are going to get people to that collaborative place. So, on one hand, teachers don't have all the time to sit and talk through a whole family experience. And so we want to keep it so it's workable on both sides, and that we realize that everybody has a lot to do right now. And so what do those collaborative and efficient conversations need to look like? And so
yeah, and I was just thinking, as an advocate, I often tell parents at the beginning, to come prepared with their, vision statement for their child, and, things that are working well, ideas that they can replicate. So now I think what we can do is, as parents, we can sit down and spend a few minutes thinking about, what it was like during the springtime. For some kids, it worked really well. And for others, it didn't. And so, I've always encouraged parents throughout the springtime and summer to be looking at what are those things that work well, what hasn't. And so if parents can, prepare some information about, this is our schedule, this is going to be, and kind of give a short summary to the school before the meeting, that might be something that would be helpful. They could process that before you actually have the meeting. So, yeah.
That's a great idea. And this step, honors the fact that we have to have that conversation and gives the time around to do it. But I love the idea of parents actually having kind of an answer to those key questions, even going
right.
into it.
Yeah. See, that would be a great prompt and an easy way for them to respond,
Yeah. Because then I think too, then those times can be, spent on all of the other pieces too, because there's never enough time to do these types of things. But, yes. And then the next one is continuity, which is hugely important, we think, as well, which is this whole notion of whatever's going on that we've just, we've decided the components, we know what's important, we know what the IEP goals are going to be, we've now understood what the family's going through, we're trying to understand what's reasonable and what's doable and streamline things. But then we need to be able to figure out that pivot, and when they come to school and when they're in home doing distance learning. And this piece for us is really thinking about, and the school team really thinking about too, as far as, what are those instructional pieces that we probably take just completely, for granted when you're teaching and you're in the moment, and you're, you might be redirecting someone, in a certain way that, is successful for them, or, what are those jokes that you pull out, or, what are you doing as a teacher to kind of keep the flow as part of it. But also, as far as universal design, what are you doing for all kids, and especially this piece for gen ed teachers to be, on those instructional teams and thinking about what are the no tech, the low tech, and the high tech things that are done. And then we're suggesting that, first of all, that identifying all of those, and then also making sure to take advantage of all of those different types. So it's not just high tech things. So when they're on distance learning, it's all online, because we know that's not going to work for everybody, And so if kids have the chance to do no tech and low tech at school, and high tech at school, then when they're at home, then we can mix it up. It might be that they're baking one day and using manipulatives, or there's just a lot more that we can do once it's universally designed and front loaded to begin with, right? But this step is really, how do we make it more continuous? And the other thing that we recommend too is that, to the greatest degree possible, don't add new stuff when kids are pivoting to distance learning. So part of that too, unless it's absolutely necessary, like if you know that there's an app out there that's going to do something for someone and support them well, and they don't have it yet, then we need to know that. But there are a lot of things that are already there for every kid in that class that we could be using in different ways, and more and different ways. And especially the high-tech pieces, because that does take time, and families may or may not be able to do all that learning either. And it's a lot easier if we're really intentional about what we're picking. So for example, if a class is using Schoology, then the student with a cognitive disability should be using Schoology. If they don't know how, then we're going to teach them how, right? So it's things like that, and not adding anything on top of it or having something be different, unless we've really thought through that, because it does create a barrier at home in some situations, or if you have people who are using high tech and then their sibling needs to be on the one and only computer that there is, then what?
Right. Yeah. And I think that's excellent. I mean, it reminds me of like accommodations for standardized tests, that you don't want to try using a new accommodation in March that you haven't been using in the classroom, right? And so, in just being more intentional about what skills do we need to teach, because if we have to pivot and go to distance learning, does the student, can they carry over that skill into the home? And then the other part that I think about is parent training, because parents need to be able to tap into whatever the school is suggesting that kids use at home. And even if it's, I know this past spring, one of the families I was working with, the teacher was wonderful and collected all these manipulatives and sent home, but there were no instructions. And it's like, for a parent that hasn't used base 10 blocks,
it's like, what do you do with these?
This looks great, but I have no idea what we're doing. And so, and teachers, I think, across districts can help each other. Like, one person makes a video on how you use Chromebooks, or finds one already on YouTube. Somebody else, in your department or in your building does this part, and you combine that. So it's not like one teacher has to replicate and reinvent the wheel all the time. But parent training, I think, is going to be really important, or just ongoing communication, right? To set up, how are we going to do this? If we're doing distance learning, that back and forth notebook isn't physically going to be able to be shared. So is email the better way? Is texting the better way? With the teacher, talk and see what will work for your partnership.
That's right. And that's where, again, going back to the other steps, right? We need to have that collaboration. We need to understand what this looks like, and that's how we can get this continuity. And actually, the fourth step is data tracking, collecting data, and the fifth is capacity building. And that's what you're talking about. And it's not just the capacity building or professional development of the teachers. It's also the professional development of the families, of the siblings, if we need them, of the student themselves. So, that student who doesn't know how to do Schoology yet, teaching them how to do Schoology might be, one of the biggest things that they could learn up front, or, learning Zoom or something like that, so that they can engage in those groups with their peers. And so this piece is really important, to identify those and then, list them out and really hold on to what the thoughts were around that, of why we want to be continuous, or consistent from one place to the other with what tools, right? We need to identify them. And then by the fifth step, we're able to list them off and really figure out what the capacity needs to be, and how we build that up. So, and this is one of, and I don't even know how we're doing on time. You'll have to tell me.
How we're fine.
we just presented this whole thing at Kansas's SOAR Summer Institute, and I talked straight through the question and answer part. So I'm leery of doing that again. But I could just go on about it. But I love this piece because this really shows what we've been talking about so far. And so, and it jumps out to me with the continuity piece. So like, if we really look at this picture, you know, and you think about the learning opportunities, those 3 bubbles, participating in routines and transition, the engaging in grade level and other essential skills, and then, you know, interacting with others, you know, you can see the 3 bubbles, you know, in this picture. And then when you think about low tech, no tech, and high tech, and if we have a minute, you know, what do people see in here? What universal design is already in place in this classroom?
So yeah, go ahead and post in our comments, because I think this is a wonderful way that we can really apply what we've been talking about. So look in this photo, type in the comments, what principles of universal design for learning are you seeing? As far as like what Jen was saying with low tech, high tech, with the interactions, keeping kids engaged. What are you seeing? So yeah, the comments will be coming in. There's a little bit of a delay, but if you want to go ahead.
Well, and what I love about this picture too, when I had it smaller, it was probably a little bit more difficult to see, but you can see even just the little guy on the right-hand side in the front, he's got a little wooden box under his feet. So it's not just the person who's using a wheelchair that's having accommodations here. It's everybody. And then you look at the little guy in the back, he looks like he's expressing himself about something, you know, like I love this picture. There's just,
I know, it's great.
There's so much going on. And I think they're doing math on top of that, you know, so they're engaging in the academics for sure. But how many other ways are they, you know, they're working it, you know? I don't know if there are answers yet. I can give some.
So Nancy was saying using manipulatives. And Anita from Virginia says all able to access at the same level.
Yep, the table. Yep.
Yes. So yeah, it is. So this is the ideal, right? This is what we want to be creating for our kids. We also have, I love that all of the students are involved.
Yep, absolutely.
And then I think this is one of the challenges, right, for parents and teachers. It's like, so if this is what it looks like in a classroom and we pivot to distance learning, how do we tap into that interaction with their peers and, you know, those kinds of things? And I think we might talk about that in a little bit, but I want to also make sure that you have time to get through the other steps. But this is what we want to see at school. And then we also want to be brainstorming some ways that we can make sure that that interaction, the connections, the relationships continue, even if our kids, you know, are at home and doing remote learning.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm going to show a follow-up picture to, you know, and we've gotten as far as to continuity so far. And before I do that, I'm just going to say, the only thing I don't see in this picture, and I would bet that it's in that backpack, is a piece of technology. But, you know, even before that, and so that's the piece with distance learning too. We don't have to assume that it has to be technology. I mean, certainly we want to leverage it, but it doesn't have to be either, because there's just so much. And how, to your point, how do we create that at home? And so this is a picture that I just love, because I have been on Cece's team for a while. And so I know what those learning opportunities and those priorities are. And so I can tell you that this picture of her at home, she's giving knuckles to her friend on the screen and saying good job. And if we had the time, we could, you know, just say, what no tech, low tech, and high tech do you see? And again, like thinking through the steps we've already gone through. For me, I see no tech things that are priorities for her. She's got her workspace. Hopefully she got there on time. Hopefully she got there independently. Hopefully, she got all of her materials all set and managing her own things, because I know that that's something that's been a priority. I see her gummy bears, which is one of her favorite treats. Over in the corner, I see her coffee drink, which is one of her favorite things that hopefully she made for herself before joining her class. We've got low tech of the cards. So we're not only working on turn taking, we're also working on communication. We're working on numbers and math. She also, in that paper stack under her gummy worms, is a schedule that it's just written on a piece of paper, and she's keeping track of where she's supposed to be and who she's supposed to be with. She's got her iPad under that other stack of cards over there. That has her AAC device on it. She's got a brand new wheelchair that she's learning to get in and around, and it's one that kind of lifts her up in different ways, and she's getting used to that. And then finally she's got her phone, which she has been concentrating on interacting with other people, texting people, sending emojis and things like that. And so she's got that there in case a friend wants to reach out.
How cool.
So right there is a way of taking the first picture and making sure we're getting it at home as well. And
I love it.
It's because of those steps that are already there, right?
Yeah, it can be done. And that's the hope that we want people to understand, is there are ways that we can make this happen. So yeah, it's just very exciting. So yes, we'll go on to number 4, which is collecting data.
Well, and I just flipped it so that we can be thinking about it at the same time, because I think it is really exciting. I think that writing that IEP in that very deliberate way, it's something we've always known. I was helping that team write that IEP in this way, and like this morning, I was with another student who his IEP has looked this way for a long time too. It'll be less of a stretch for them because they're going to understand how to do those parts. But the data piece, of course, we want to know data. We have to know progress. We need to know if something else is going on at home. There might be things that people are communicating with their behavior. I've heard a lot of people some of the kids that are having a really tough time, there's some behaviors that are reappearing that haven't been there in a long time, and there's like a regression, so how do families keep track of that? How do they communicate that? How do they get support for that? How do we make sure that, we know what gen ed curriculum kids are, what is the summative, informative stuff that kids are going to be a part of? We need to have those conversations, knowing which aspects of the curriculum that we're going to track on, whether it's the, online pieces or not. But when you really think about it, your job in a school is to track this stuff. Every adult is kind of tracking data and keeping tabs on what's going on. And at home, that's not something that we've had to do before. So really understanding the parts that we can streamline it and make it easy and user-friendly, but then also, helping families do it and know what to keep track of and when to keep track. And so these are all conversations. And so this graphic, I love it, because on the left-hand side at school, there might be all sorts of different ways we're going to track on these things. At home, it might be that, we're choosing one time during the week that a family is going to really focus on something. So again, the examples that we have within the process that at the link, the person that's the example in there, it might be that they're going to keep track of how many times a student is using their AAC device while at dinner on a Friday night, because that's what's going to work for the family,
Right.
And really having those conversations, and then realizing, okay, so is that tally marks? Or are they just going to keep tally marks of whatever it is that we're keeping data of? Is it that we're going to, screenshot a sentence that's put into an AAC device and then share it? Is it a video that we take on our phone and once a week we send it to the case manager to share with the team? Is it apps that, you know, are educationally based and fun at the same time, that are like games that kids can play and you can take pictures at the end. You know, I think of like Bitsboard Pro, Brain Pop, Quizlet, you know,
Right.
things like that, that once a person has used them, that last screen, you just take a screenshot of it and it has all sorts of data that we can use, you know, so just being really deliberate about that. Other ideas that are kind of quick and dirty ones are, you know, if there's a calendar, a family calendar on the refrigerator, you know, highlighting the day that you're going to, you know, do whatever the data is, you know, so, and that's where like the tally marks could be kept. And then once a month, taking a picture of it and sending a picture from your phone to the teacher, you know. So all of these things are things that we could really help families understand that we want to help you track progress, but we really need to make it doable for families.
Yeah, I think those are excellent ideas because, you know, there are a variety of ways, and I do have like a little e-guide too that I had written about collecting, you know, data at home last spring. And one of the things that I said is, you know, if you have a refrigerator and a cell phone, you can take data.
Yes, yes.
And it can just be, you know, a piece of paper you put on the refrigerator and you jot down things as you see them. And it just is a reminder to keep track. And like you said, using your phone, I mean, to take a quick video and to send that off to the teacher there. Yeah, so there are easy ways. And then, you know, for parents that want to be more detailed, we can also share, you know, more detailed ways that you can, you know, collect data. But yeah, and I love the idea of looking at, you know, the apps that your child's going to be on and seeing what kind of, you know, records and data that app collects, right? I mean, that's
For
like
sure.
a
Yeah.
perfect way to share that with the teacher. So yeah, those are great ideas.
Well, and a lot of that, you know, some of the stuff that I've been working with teams in the brick and mortar buildings is exactly that, like taking a screenshot at the end of, you know, a Bitsboard, you know, 15-minute break that a person is taking during class, and they're, you know, and I call it's a break for sure, but they have no idea that they're learning so much at the same time, which is great. But, you know, just taking a simple screenshot of that is data. So why not keep that? And so that's the part where, you know, when you hear it and you try to think of how to do it at home, it really doesn't. I love that, you know, a refrigerator and a calendar stuck to it is it.
Right.
I've also heard of a family that was, and this is also like within the examples and stuff that are in the materials, but, you know, if you're watching a video with closed captioning on and pausing it and having someone read the sentence that's on there, or asking inferential questions about, you know, what do you think is going to happen, or who, you know, the characters in the video. Those are things that siblings can do and not feel totally put out. If, you know, oh, tonight, why don't you watch whatever it is that they enjoy watching together, and, you know, stop it 3 times and have your little sister read this to you 3 times and tell me how she does, you know. It can be stuff like that.
So Courtney is here with us from the state of Washington, and she says, what's the data collecting app called? So it wasn't a specific data collecting app, but Jen, do you want to mention some of the apps that do just automatically collect data for you?
Yeah. I mean, some people have used, and of course, there's some that are fee-based, there are some that are free, there's, you know, things like that. Quizlet is one that has all sorts of data that it keeps. I don't know. I mean, I know that there are certain parts of Quizlet that are free. I also know that there are parts that you can, like, you know, pay more for. But Seesaw is another one that you can really keep, you know, even by just putting things on Seesaw. And that's something that's largely used in general ed classes all over. And so if they are using Seesaw in a way that is data collecting for a kid like we're talking about is super simple. And you can have, you know, a whole portfolio of examples of, you know, of kids reading or accessing different things with that are very visual as well.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say the one that I mentioned before was Bitsboard Pro, and that is a fee-based, that's just an app that you purchase one time, but Bitsboard is free, I believe. So there's one that's free and there's one that's not. And so the difference being that the Pro has this whole library that people have already created, all sorts of materials that you can access. But the free version is super easy for people to just make it. It's literally like taking a picture of something and all of a sudden you can play 10 different games with it. So it's really cool.
Yeah, and those are the things that if kids are in the brick and mortar building, they can be using at school. So then if they pivot and have to go home, they've already had experience with it. I know, like for my granddaughter, they use the accelerated reading program at school. I mean, that was easy for her to do this spring, on her, Chromebook, because she already knew how to use it. But accelerated reader is also one of those that will keep track of data for you. So you can talk to the teachers and, see what they've already been using at school. If the parents can use the same tool at home, that helps, because then they can, compare the data. This is what we saw last spring before we closed. This is what we see now,
Yeah. And I think too that they're, again, like the high tech ones, sure, those are pieces of it, but also thinking about those no tech and low tech parts. And right. So, that's just important even for general ed teachers to be thinking of right now. Again, front loading things. So if you're doing a science lab, are there things that, are there bones? Like if you're studying bones, can you have manipulatives that have, real bones that you can like drop off on, people's porches, or that they can come to school and collect a box of whatever those manipulatives are, Right. There's things like that I've heard of teachers really coming up with, where it's like, they're offering those universally designed types of activities for everybody. Right. And just making sure that, those types of things are a part of distance learning for this crew too.
Well, exactly. And I think the other thing is to make sure that we get our kids' input, so it's like, so how would you like to tell your teacher about this, wonderful, funny story that you just read? What would be a way that you want to do it? So, I mean, you could give them a couple choices. They could come up, with their own choice, but to always consider that, and that's something that we want teachers doing at school, giving our kids choices of how they show what they've learned. Yeah. And so to also bring that in as, we could do it, you could do a short video, my grandkids love like doing, videos, yeah. And tell your teacher about the story that way instead of writing the report or whatever. But getting the kids' voice.
And I think that's the part is that when distance learning, I've heard people call it crisis learning, like it was really quite like, here we go. This is what we're doing. Like, and teachers are learning everything at the exact same time, and we're all kind of trying to adjust. And I think that's the part, is that this helps us be proactive in that. This process helps us have these conversations and lays a framework for us to follow, so that, it might be during distance learning that keeping data on certain things is just not going to happen. So what is it that we're going to keep data on, and just really, capitalizing on those parts. So, right. And then the fifth one is capacity. And I want to show the learning matrix too. So I don't want to talk myself straight through on this one yet. But for capacity, again, that's going back to what does every single person that, we've already had in these meetings, like, what does the student need to know? Is that something that their brother or sister can help with? Is it something that we need to specifically work on? What does the family need to know? What do the teachers need to know? And really understanding then how to build that capacity. And there's tons of stuff out there, whether it's, does someone need to watch a YouTube video, or do we need to have one conversation a week until everyone's feeling comfortable with something? Or is there specific stuff that needs to be, used? And Charmaine, I love the idea of how many different teachers are just sharing things that they're doing right now. And, so it could be like a screencast-o-matic of a teacher talking about how to use Google Classroom. Well, not everybody has to do those. We can find those things out there right now. People are really sharing. And so what is the capacity that people need, and how do we get it? There's a lot of on-demand types of stuff too, but what does that need to look like, and really having a conversation inclusive of the family and the student themselves and the teachers as to what they need. And that's the 5 C's. And this is also a part of the materials where it's a learning matrix, which is ubiquitous. It has been around forever and a day to put this type of information into a grid like this. We've done it so that, again, there's drop-down menus. We've made it as easy as we possibly can. We anticipate people having like an infographic, once they kind of get used to the process and have read through the materials. We love the thought of, a team sitting with just the infographic and walking through the steps and being able to just pull this up on their computer, and, you're able to see like the learning opportunities, or which bubble it fits into. The goal areas are here. And then there's drop down the green boxes are the ones that we're going to keep data on. And that could change. It might be we're going to keep data on something for the next 2 weeks, and then we're going to change it. But once you have these conversations, putting it in a learning matrix like this really helps people understand, when is it that we're going to focus on these things? What's the plan for it? Who is going to be responsible for it? By this, by the end of the 5 C's, you should be able to figure out, all those different pieces. And so we've got one, again, that there's an example for elementary and secondary. And the crazy thing is when we did this before, I was covering up different parts of it, as the steps, as you'd go through the steps. But for just step 1 and 2, except for the calendar at the top and this big grid in the middle where you're, figuring out when and how we're going to take data and that type of thing, you get through all of that in just the collaboration and the first IEP component piece. And then it's just a matter of figuring out when we're going to do that and to what extent. So that's the one for school. And then there's another one for home. And you can see that we're, in this example, we're not going to take as much data. But even that, it's like if a person's having a difficult time with some challenging behavior, then maybe that's the only thing we're keeping data on for however long,
Right.
But even then, like the drop downs for what the activities are. And so really this schedule, it's, they wake up, they have breakfast, and so just understanding enough about the family to be able to fill this in together is huge, right? And that's it. So all of that, I think here's the, I did want to put this up. So that link right there, there's one for the whole overview of the series, which I said, this 5 C's process happens to be number 17, but there are 16 others, and we're trying to put things up weekly. But this 5 C's process was a big one. So that link, you can see that the one that's ZUMN EDU ties DL17. So as we add new videos or anything else that we're going to be, adding to that package, that will be updated. So that's the only link you'll ever need for that. And anything we change or add or, create will be linked to it there. And then we really encourage people, like once you're using it, we would love to hear not only how it's going and how you're using it, but if there are recommendations, based on things that people are experiencing, we want to include it so other people can learn from it. So
yeah, I wanted to share also how people can connect with you, Jen. So this is her email, and I'll also put these links in the description of the videos, so then you guys can have easy access and they can be clickable. This is where you can also see more of Jen's work. This is my favorite place where I first learned of her. Welcome, spoken here. And she's also on Twitter. So if you guys are on Twitter, and you can also find her on Instagram. So there were a couple other questions I wanted to bring up here. So let me look I think Kimberly from California had a question about data, or was it? Oh, okay. So this is a different Kimberly. Said some members of my IEP team were reluctant to include my data as a mom, particularly in terms of progress toward IEP goals during distant learning. What are some tips for promoting the inclusion of parent data? I'm guessing there should be some flexibility protocol for including this data given distance learning and social distance.
Yeah, I mean, this is the part where even just, up front, the pieces that are the overview of the whole process itself. I mean, this distance learning piece, we have to hear what's going on at home. We have to know what the data is and what it's saying. And so I guess for me, it's like, as you're asking that question, I have like images of young people going through my head of like, if we didn't know what that experience was from those families, how would we ever really address it? So I think it's these key questions in this process can really help with that to I would suggest bringing it to them and asking them to consider doing it in this way, because it does, again, collaboratively help people go through and really think about it together and why it is that we really need to know what it is that the experience is at home, because it is just so important. I have one individual that I was just with today that it's just, I mean, it's devastating. He is a social creature that needs to be with people, and we need to know what's going on at home and how many different ways he's shown us that this isn't working in order to be able to create that that bridge for him if and when school's back in person or not,
Right.
So it's hugely important. So
Yeah, I think I agree. And it's something that, like Jen said, is evolving. And so I think stay connected with the Thai Center and go back and look at those other 16, articles
yeah,
and groups that they've written all about distance learning. I think there's like such, it's like a gold mine there of
yeah,
information. And it's like Jeanette said at the beginning of the show, it's accessible if you use a screen reader. There's, a part where you can click and it will read it out loud to you. So there's all kinds of ways to make their information from the Thai Center accessible. Um, and, so who would be, is there a one location where you want to get feedback from families or teachers, or what's the best way if they want, if they have an idea that they want to share?
well, two things. One is that even just for the distance learning series, we're encouraging people to submit if you want to write something.
Okay.
That we have a team that does a review, typically, and this is kind of funny because within ties the materials are just such high quality, and there's like, there's, if you pull the curtain back, which I'm so excited to be a part of it now, because now that I see what goes on behind the scenes, it's expert panels and all of these partners across all of these universities that are like reading and culling and revising and offering their expertise to make sure that this stuff is just the quality that it is. And that process takes quite a bit of time. If you see a briefing or a tip sheet or whatever, pre-COVID, it took quite a while to go through all of the channels. And so the distance learning series was really in response to, we want to get this stuff up and we want it to be proactive and we want to be reactive to what's actually going on. And a part of that is that we are having people, let us know what your experiences are so that we can ask the questions and get the questions answered and put products out. And so the Facebook page is probably the best place to do that. But also that we are inviting people that, want to participate in writing and things like that, that are wanting to share experiences. We have a review team for that. And so that also you could reach out. Actually, I can put this back up, this one, this last slide. Is it that one? Yeah. So either on our Facebook page or at those two emails, Terry Vandercook or Gail Gear are probably the best emails to send it to if there were specific things, just because I'm a consultant for ties, but they are full-blown ties people. So their emails are there, but you can certainly be in touch with me as well, and I can get it into the right hands too.
Well, thank you so much. This has just been, mind blowing. And, I've been using the word pop rocks. I think about my mind. It seems like it's percolating with all these wonderful ideas. And I know yesterday I had Julie Costin on, and she was talking about the Summer Leadership Institute. So she wanted to make sure I said hi to you. And
I
nice. The same thing. It's like, I can't wait for the Institute next week. It's going to be like so amazing. It's
even just the list of things that they're going to do for like breaks are just awesome, because I've participated in her institutes before, both just as a participant as well as a speaker, and I just love that time spent. So yeah, I'm so excited that she's still doing it.
Like a perfect example too of like how they did it in person, and now how they're pivoting and making it happen in a virtual world. As different Zoom rooms that are having their own backgrounds, and I mean just all kinds of engaging ideas. So anyway, you just remind me of other great influential leaders that we have, and I am so thankful that there are people like you that can take these wonderful ideas and make it so it's understandable, to chunk it out, right? That's a great accommodation for us. Develop the process. The Ties Center has thought of those key questions to ask, so to help you implement the process, whether or not you're a parent or an educator. So I hope people that are watching us live or on the replay will share this widely. This is the type of information that people need right now, as we're starting August, right?
Yeah.
And there's people, to offer support. The Facebook group would be a great way to, continue the conversations and, see what's new. But thank you so much, Jen, for carving out time for us today. I'm excited. I'm feeling like, yes, there's things that we can do versus that kind of gloom feeling.
I know. I feel the same way, and that's why we were just so excited to get this out and have it be so well received so far. So, but I am happy to answer any questions. People can reach out to me personally. You don't have to go through Ties to do it. This is what I do. This is what I like to do, is just help people figure out how to use it and chunk it and put it, even in those school situations that are sticky. I have lots of ideas when I know more, finer details and can help you guide that path. And so, I just love this work. And so, I appreciate so much being here. So
you're the perfect person for the job.
Thank you.
So yeah, I mean, you have the values, you are grounded with, what I think is what we need to keep at the forefront, and it shines in all the work and all the ways that you help families and teachers. So you are much appreciated, and your colleagues too at the Ties Center, because this is helping us reimagine how things can be, and knowing that we can go forward and we can make lots of positive changes even when it's an uncertain time. And I guess the last thing I would like to leave with is just to always remember to find ways to get your child's voice in the process. Ask your child what worked and what didn't work last spring, how they want things to be different. Honor and value what your child says, and bring that back. If your child's not at the meeting, bring it back to the team. Next Thursday is our first Thursday of the month, which is our Q&A time. So it's just a time where parents and educators can come and we'll talk about whatever interests you. And keep tuned because we'll have more exciting things happening the month of August, and for sure to help you get back to school.
Right. Knock on wood. Let's hope it's not that exciting. It's exciting enough.
Calm would be nice, right? Just like, okay, we got this. I know. I did do a morning meditation that helps, so I also recommend that.
Good for you.
So anyway, thank you to our viewers. Thank you for what you are doing there every day with your own kids and with students that you work with, and we appreciate all of you. And we will see you next Thursday. Come back at noon Mountain Time, and we will be here to talk and answer questions. So thanks, Jen.